Good morning, everybody. Welcome to your Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Monday, the 1st of December. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined by the double J's. Johnny McFarlane joins us. How goes it, Johnny?
Yes, Derek, plenty to talk about as ever today. Another disgraceful performance by Rangers. I think Josh mentioned on X the other day that there's been one good performance this season, and we're now in December. And it's not hyperbole, it's not exaggeration, it's fact. Rangers have been good in one game so far this season. And good Lord, it's tough watch.
Yeah. What game was that? I've just I forgot all about
Pilsen. But I was speaking to a friend of the show, Martin Ramsey, yesterday, and I actually don't think Pilsen happened. I think we were just all exposed to an experiment for one night. We have seen no further proof that the players who played that way on that night can continue to do that. But it was
a gas leak of some sort.
Yeah, it had to be. Oh my days, Derek. I mean, I don't think we're a podcast that prides itself. Well, maybe some of us do. Don't pride ourselves on hot takes, on saying things for the sake of it. No, we don't do that. But there hasn't. There's been one good performance, and it's December. And some of the numbers we're going to get into today confirm that Rangers are playing like a mid-table team. They genuinely are. And the only reason they're not further behind is because Celtic have had such a disastrous start, and Hearts are obviously higher than they need to be. And it's actually quite an even league in terms of Hibs and Motherwell and teams taking points off one another. But that yesterday was just...
Yeah, it was garbage, it really was. Before we dive into that, a quick word for our podcast sponsors, Willow's Fencing, the Glasgow-based fencing company you can trust and proud partners of the Rangers Review. They've got over 20 years of experience in the fencing trade. No job is too small or too big for these guys, folks. If you need a new fence, then give them a call or head on over to their website where you can get 10% off with the code Rangers Review, willows-fencing.com. And today is also the final day of our Black Friday sale. So if you want to take advantage of a year subscription over on the website for just £12, it really is a cracking offer, folks. Then today is the day to do just that. The all-important link is in the description below this video. Or if you've got your phones handy, you can notice the QR codes on the top right-hand corner of the screen, or the left-hand corner, whatever way you're looking at us today. If you scan that, will take you through to the all-important page where you can sign up, and so many of you have signed up already, so thank you for doing that. Despite the nonsense on the park, it's good to have your support to the channel. And let's dive right in then. Got to say, I was fortunate. I was sat in the Govan rear for the last 2 games, thanks to my dad. I was heading along to the game with him, but yesterday flew back up from Luton after covering the Bolton game on Saturday. Flew up on Sunday morning. There was a number of Rangers fans on that flight, and it makes you really admire the lengths that supporters go to travel to watch the team when they're producing that. But it was an early morning flight up. We headed into Partick and had a nice bit of breakfast and went to Bag of Nails. I don't know if you guys know that, or frequenting that bar. The Menabrays were going down lovely, and then we had to go to Ibrox, unfortunately. And the next 2 hours were forgettable, to say the least. And certainly when you're sat amongst the fans, you get a real sense of the real sort of, not desperation, but these supporters are pig sick of coming up to visiting Ibrox or wherever and being served up. That, Johnny, as you touched on there, there's been one performance this season. It's not good enough, and we can see attendances dwindling away. Lots of empty seats, of course, at Ibrox, and understandable, I guess. On Thursday night, it was very unlike a European game in seasons gone by. And it really is depressing stuff. And the game itself, Conor Barron with a tame shot in the first half, then Jedi Gassama in the second half that he really should have buried. That's about it. Not much else happened. And against Falkirk at home, the Rangers fans are right to expect so much more, Johnny.
Absolutely. They are right to expect it, given what's been spent, given what these players are paid. But I don't know if they're right to expect it based on what we've seen so far already this season. I've been saying pretty consistently on this podcast, right from early in Martin's tenure, that this squad was not fit for purpose. And a lot of people said, no, this is actually an okay squad. The players here have talent, and once Russell Martin goes, things will get better. And I think that was the thought process inside the club as well. Danny Rule comes in, and it's very interesting that not long after Danny Rule comes in and starts assessing this squad, that both Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart are given the bullet. I suspect partially that's because what they've been relaying back to the chairman is, with regards to the health of this squad, has not matched up to what the manager himself feels. And no wonder. There's so many players that are just not fit to wear the Rangers shirt, that are just not good enough. You look at someone like Tello Asgard. I can't keep going on about this guy. I've filtered him already. I think he's got talent. He's a good player, but he has no impact on games. He's got no personality in games. Disappears. It's a crucial position in this formation where he's got quite a lot of the attacking onus on him, the creative onus. Doesn't stand tall, doesn't produce. You look at Oliver Antman, a very good player in Holland. He's just the latest guy to come from Holland with a big reputation and not live up to it in Scotland. I think Rangers really need to have a look at what they're bringing in from that league and be a lot more careful, because I don't think the skill set translates very well to Scottish football from what we're seeing so far. Certainly recently, Rangers have certainly had phenomenal players from Holland in the past, but they were going to places like PSV and Feyenoord and taking the best players from those clubs. I think when you're going further down the league, there's a question mark about the physical nature of Scottish football versus the physical nature of the Eredivisie. So I really, really think that that's something they have to look at. That's those two. I think those two need to be sold in January. You just need to cut your losses and try and move them on somewhere else. They're not going to make it here. It's not a matter of, giving them time to adjust. It's just not going to work, given what Rangers face on a weekly basis. You look at the loans. I actually thought Giga was better yesterday. I have to give him credit, Derek. I thought he was pretty good for the most part of the game, defensively organised, and Rangers looked a bit less porous. So I can't complain about Giga in terms of yesterday's game, but overall I'd still say Giga should be sent back in January. Again, not good enough. Max Aarons, I don't understand why the manager's persisting with him at left back. I noticed the manager's getting a lot of criticism on social media platforms. I don't think it's fair, but I do think it's fair to question why Aarons is playing. I think Magoma is a better option, gives the team balance, at least gets forward. Aarons, a lot of the time, is coming onto his right foot, which people know he's going to do. He's getting himself in difficult situations. That's when he's actually going forward. A lot of the other time, he's passing the ball back. So those four, for me, are key. That something needs to be done. And then Rothwell, I just do not understand it at all. I'd love someone to explain what's going on there. A guy I spoke to multiple people about, they all said he would be a really good player for Rangers based on his career history. He's been at Bournemouth, moved for decent money there, certainly been comfortable at the top end of the Championship throughout his career, played at a big club in Leeds. I just don't get how little Rangers have got out of him. Brought in as a number 6 by Russell Martin. That's not really his position, never has been. So why not use him as a number 8? He's not being picked by Martin latterly. He's not being picked by Rule now. What's the problem here? This is a guy on big money wages. So that core of 5 needs to be dealt with quickly. I was talking to Adam Thornton, a friend of the show, last night, and Adam was talking about bringing in good players. I think the main issue here is that good players won't cut it. Rangers don't need good players, in the sense of sometimes good players don't adapt to Rangers and don't adapt to Scottish football. What Rangers need is players who are guaranteed to perform in the domestic Scottish game week in, week out. Players who've done it before. Players who are extremely low risk. Players who can provide the backbone to this squad that will allow talented players to have a little bit less pressure on them and hopefully thrive. If Rangers are going to do this thing about rearing future stars, bringing them in younger, selling them on, be a selling club, doing what successful clubs in Europe have done over the years, especially in Portugal with the likes of Porto and Sporting and things like that. They need to bring in players that can cope with the bread and butter. That is essential to me. I think if Rangers go out in the summer and go out in the winter window and spend 15 million, bringing in a £4 million 21-year-old from Croatia here, a £3 million player from Albania there, a £6 million player from Sweden, you very, very likely will have the same scenario and it won't improve, because people at the club need to grasp this concept that Scottish football, although weak, is idiosyncratic and needs a specific skill set. And Rangers, although dominant in most games that they play traditionally, certainly not this season, but traditionally, requires a special mentality to cope with the goldfish bowl that is Glasgow and the absolute intense pressure that comes with being a Rangers player. So huge, huge questions of this leadership group. There's no Patrick Stewart to blame anymore. There's no Kevin Thelwell to blame anymore. Signings are going to be expected in January 1st. If those don't come in, major questions are going to be asked.
Well, where do we start with that? Lots to unpack, Joshua.
I feel like I'm sitting across the what you call it, the way in the House of Commons, and I've just heard an address.
Order.
Yeah.
There's not. You should be braying and booing me.
Yeah.
Joshua, tell us about the chance creation then, because there's a piece on the website and it just explains just how poor Rangers are in an attacking sense, that they're creating very little, next to nothing pretty much. And it's unacceptable.
Yeah, well, I think it's worth also going into a bit of what Johnny's saying, because a lot of that I agree with. And I think a lot of the fallout and the reporting we've done and the discourse that's followed Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart leaving. And I said that yesterday with Blair at Ibrox, is like that's their legacy, really, isn't it? A team that is just, you've spent so much money on, more money than Rangers have spent. When's the last time Rangers spent over 30 million? I don't know, like
Advocate era.
Yeah, so I was like 2 or 3, and that's what you serve up. Just a completely, it's a skill to make Ibrox apathetic after a US takeover in the summer. And what you're saying there about, I think people are just so vexed and so sick, as you said, exasperated of not being entertained and not seeing that you go to that game yesterday and there's nothing to hold on to. You put Nadim Barami's in for his first start of the season. He's a few individual moments, but that really was it, wasn't it? You're not looking at that and thinking, here's 3 or 4 to build around. And I think a comment we have made consistently since the summer, we'll have different opinions on different aspects of it, but a comment we've made consistently is that this team needed a new spine. You needed to phase James Tavernier out a little bit and give Nico Raskin the right partner in midfield. You needed to improve the forward line in all aspects, whether it be the centre of defence, whether it be the number 9 position, whether it be the inability to replace someone like Václav Černý. Rangers have spent more money to get worse, and they've not signed those 3 or 4 players to build around, because that's the squad building issue, right? Because if you're trying to plan ahead to next year and you're looking at that starting 11, how many are guaranteed to be there? How many would people hang their hat on? And that's the issue. So if you'd signed maybe 2 or 3 players less, but put more money into those players, I think they'd be in a far better position. We can get back to that. I'm just going to throw up 2 stats there. There's a piece that explains this more on the website coming today. Rangers are scoring nothing because they're creating nothing. This is their open play expected goals in the last 4 seasons. This doesn't include corners and free kicks, and it shows the base of their average XG, average chance creation in open play. You can see 22, 23, 1.5, then 1.4, then 1.48, 1.43. This season it's dropped to 0.85. And if we look at that in the context of the league, what people will be able to see here is Rangers' chance creation is marginally lower than Falkirk's per 90. It's lower than Hearts, Motherwell, Hibs, well lower than Celtic. Not quite half, but not far away. It is a chance creation of a mid-table team, and that benefits yesterday from Nadim Barami. The chance that kind of hits off him, which got a quite high rating, but I think I wouldn't really qualify that as a chance, because it kind of hits him, doesn't it, as opposed to anything really that substantial. And myself and Blair did a video on Saturday where we said this is going to catch up with Rangers at some point. And ironically, yesterday, they had a better difference between what they created, and they didn't concede that much against Falkirk. But anyone who's watching that game with their eyes knows that Falkirk would have maybe even left a bit disappointed because they just didn't have that. They had the game more, I think, on their terms. And for 2 of the 4 games that Danny Rule had managed, Hibs had a far higher expected goals. Kilmarnock had actually shaded it in that 3-1 game at Ibrox. Basically, if you have that small a margin for error, at some point it's going to catch up with you. It probably should have caught up with Rangers last week against Livingston. I know that goal, if Tete Yenge scores when he goes through 1-on-1, might be pulled back for a foul, but they should have a penalty in the first half and go 2-1 up. And from that point, I struggle to see this Rangers team bringing it back. That's the concerning thing for me, Derek, and it's why talk of are they still in a title race, and that is only because of what is ahead of them. It's only because Celtic have been so weak. Yet once again, when Celtic have been as weak as they are, again, the legacy this summer is Rangers have been so much weaker despite all the money they've spent.
Yeah, I expect them. I think that goal in Paisley last week will just spur them on, and they'll motor on. They've had a good week, of course, and Hearts stumbling again. But there you go. Andrew with the point says frontline players are lacking character and guile, limited killer instinct, winning mentality, and ability to score goals. Can't disagree with any of that. Andrew, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to make you mentioned Paisley, and that game perfectly underlines my point. Celtic are struggling in that game. They've been actually St Mirren were the better side. I watched the whole game. They were excellent. Celtic were on the ropes for a lot of it. Good chances St Mirren had. It was, don't get me wrong, St Mirren didn't pulverise them or anything like that. But as the game wore on, Celtic knew that they had to win it, and they started to push. 82nd minute, 83rd minute, 84th minute, keeping the pressure on. You compare that to Rangers yesterday. Who looked more likely in the last 10 minutes?
I know, Falkirk.
But Celtic in that game, who stepped up? Their captain, the Scot, who understands what it means, what it takes, what it's about, and pulled them through. Rangers don't have anyone like that in that squad. The two that are like that, or that have some sense of that in terms of experience, Jack Butland, James Tavernier. Tavernier's in poor form again. He's had 2 poor games in a row now. Butland, we know, has had a good season, but he's a goalkeeper. And then you look throughout that squad and you're asking for leadership. Nico Raskin's form's fallen off a cliff. Absolutely fallen off a cliff. Looks a quarter of the player that he did under Barry Ferguson last season when he really came to the fore. And I just think that this whole team lacks players who understand the identity of the club. The core of Rangers should always be Scottish and British. And you just look at that team, you just wonder where the kind of passion, the representation of the club to the fans, it's just not there. And they've made an absolute hash of it. And the big thing that I think we're going to be talking about is how do you fix it? Because it's actually going to be a bit of a miracle fix if they can turn this round in January. They'll need to, if they sign 5 players, all of them will have to be terrific. That's the reality of where Rangers are. It's a really, really, really broken football department at the moment. Yeah. And we can't get away from this. I have never seen a worse Rangers top flight side. I talked about this on Twitter the other day. Someone said, "Oh, what about the Kashina side?" And then I started looking at it. I thought, let's have a think about this. Tavernier in 2018 is far better than Tavernier now. Bruno Alves wasn't a success at Rangers, but went on to have 3 years in Serie A where he played week in, week out. So I would say he's definitely better than what's there at the moment. Daniel Candeas has had a good career in Portugal. I think he's still better than anything that's there at the moment. Is he better than John Souttar? Maybe not, but Souttar's not playing at the moment. Did I say Daniel Candeas there?
Yeah.
I meant Cardoso, sorry, Fabio Cardoso. Daniel Candeas is definitely better than anything that's there at the moment. Ryan Jack is better than anything that's there at the moment. Alfredo Morelos is better than anything that's there at the moment. And Kenny Miller would
Wallace was there at the time, like left back.
Yeah, Josh Windlass was there. all these guys walk into this team. That's the reality.
Yeah.
So this is the nadir. You know, this is the bottom, and I just think major changes need to be made. They can't go down the route again of getting another director of football that comes in, or sporting director, whatever you want to call it, that just doesn't get it, doesn't understand Scottish football. To me, they need to absolutely be targeting someone for both the chief executive role and the sporting director role that has a tangible understanding of Scottish football and that's got a provable understanding of it. Because this is absolutely the problem. You know, how can you deliver what you need to deliver for a club like this, an institution like this, and what the fans expect when the squad is full of players that just don't understand and don't get it?
Yeah.
You can't.
Nah.
So
substandard. A few points come in before I come to you, Joshua. J-Dubs, this was the feeling where I was sat in the stand. He says it all when Arfield came off the bench. I thought, wish we had him on our bench. He absolutely could have been doing with Scott Arfield in that Rangers squad. And there was a point, I made it yesterday as well, King Charles Spaniel and a few others. He says, why there's such a lack of urgency, slow walking to take throw-ins and corners. No, it really grated on me in the first half. Falkirk gave away a corner. First opening 10 minutes, just approaching the 10-minute mark. And there was a failure to go and take it quickly. I think Bayrami was in the box himself. Why should Rangers be waiting on James Tavernier to take every single set piece? It allows Falkirk to set themselves. There's just no sort of proactive nature in that Rangers team to spot an opportunity and take advantage of it. Falkirk weren't set up. And I thought that was a really great chance to put them on the back foot there. But alas, they never took it. Now, in terms of set pieces, I made the point yesterday. I didn't see any variation on the set pieces. I mean, the set piece coach has now been employed by the club. I would like to think that since he's been in there, there've been at least 2 or 3 different free kick and corner variations, as opposed to just have floating balls in or hitting the first man at the near post. Joshua, have you seen variations on that? Is that too unfair to expect more invention?
I think a bit. Well, what I would say to you is, how many league games the Rangers had? This was their second. They scored in the first one. They should have scored yesterday because Tello Asgard has a free header at the back post. That's a good chance in the second half, and he's freed up. So you should be 2 for 2. So you're not going to score from every corner. You're probably going to score maximum 6 or 7%. I think the variation you've seen is last week, the way that you created. So even take Tello Asgard at the corner that Manny Fernandez scores from last week. He's at the front post with, I think, Tramiti. Can't remember who it is. Creating space as a decoy, and then he should score at the back post with a free header yesterday. So I get what you're saying about the intuition and taking the initiative and the protagonist. I'd argue that you probably can't have one without the other, because set piece coaches will want to limit variables as much as possible. But as I say, I think Tello Asgard should score that header yesterday, and then you're having a very different conversation. If he puts that inside the post instead of outside, you're saying, "Oh, brilliant, 2 goals from 2 with the set piece coach." However,
that's just a normal. But that's just a normal ball. And I'm talking about things you go, that's off the training ground. There.
The Manny Fernandez one wasn't it? Because if you watch that back, there's 2 guys at the front post who are acting as a decoy. Fernandez has the freedom of Ibrox to isolate himself one-on-one. And I can't pretend, even I don't have the appetite to look studiously at every corner on a day like yesterday. But I think there has been slight differences in the fact that then you have a different routine yesterday that, yes, it's still James Tavernier putting it in, but what are the runs around the players? Why is Tello Asgard at the back post instead of the front post? So I don't just think they've done, for example, that routine where they tried to free Manny Fernandez up every time. However, I do agree with you that there is a severe lack of people who are willing to be the protagonists. I think James Tavernier's had a bit of that throughout his Rangers career. I think Nico Raskin has had a bit of that throughout his Rangers career. But again, where I absolutely am in agreement with Johnny is there so clearly was not enough attention given to what had gone before in this summer's rebuild. I think that there's a little bit more nuance to it, and I still think that if you Hamza Gaman is the perfect example for me of quality supersedes everything, and when it comes to what makes a successful Rangers team. However, you look back at the fact that this was a core leadership team a core leadership group who needed 3 or 4 people above them, not 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 more players to try and show them the way on days like that yesterday. Because against Livingston and Falkirk, that is the type of run-of-the-mill games. Now, Falkirk have done brilliantly to be where they are. Livingston are a team who continuously perform over budget. But those are the type of games that are bread and butter doesn't even start to cover it. That's the type of game where you should be running.
Yeah.
You should be running them. You should feel confident. You should set the tone. Again, the biggest issue for me watching this Rangers team, and this was an issue last season too, they could not set the tone when they had the ball. Now they can't even set the tone when they don't have the ball. So you've taken away that aspect, and that's why they're terrible in Europe comparatively to last season. But they're a team who, when it's on them, yesterday they had the chance to cut the gap to ours. But you're right, you wouldn't have known that in the stadium in the last 15 minutes. It was just kind of like, we'll see if we get up the pitch.
Everyone wanted it to end.
Yeah, and that's mad, isn't it? That's mad because I like Jonny. I watched that game at Celtic against St Mirren, and I think James Tavernier has been able to do that in recent years for Rangers. He's got another year of football in his legs. He's been relied upon more than ever, which I don't think is his fault. Aside from that, when you're looking for someone to pull something out of nowhere, I mean, Nadim Barami has been absolutely nowhere in this Rangers team, left out the European squad, and he was the most bright attacker yesterday. Almost scored a really nice goal when he swiveled through 2 or 3. But when you're getting to that point, for a guy who's hardly played any football and is looking the brightest, I think that tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah. I'd just say, on top of that, you can't blame a set-piece coach when a player hits the first man. And, that's about individual quality and making sure that they're delivering the kind of ball into the box that can be attacked and that is useful. And there was, I think, too many yesterday where the cross was just not of a standard. As I say already, I don't think Tavernier had a good game yesterday, and the anti-Tavernier crew are out in force in the comments, and understand why, because I think that's now 2 games in a row where he's been pretty poor. But the set piece coach is going to have to be given a little bit of time to get it going. And as Josh said,
I just might see a short stuff you see in games all across the country, worldwide. A short corner, stuff that you go, that's intelligent, that's right off the training ground. Instead of just whipping balls in and just a bit of movement, a bit of variation.
But Arsenal, if you look at what Arsenal do, that's quite similar to what Rangers did last week, where it's not they're putting the ball in the same place every single time. But the idea is if you do that 12 to 15 times in the game, eventually it's going to work. Whereas if you mix it up every time, then you are decreasing the average of that move working. So I think
you can only do one. You can only necessarily once a team gets wise to a variation, then you can't really do it again. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, but I would say that if you watch Arsenal, or they kind of do. There's a little bit of variation, I agree, but they kind of do the same thing for the whole game. But eventually, they're like, if we expose this zonal marking at the right time with our runs from the back post, with that, as Jonny says, with that ball over the first man, then eventually that's going to come good. And again, I think it should have for Rangers yesterday, because Tello Asgard is free at the back post, but heads wide.
Yeah.
Right, I need to jump in here and say, Josh, off you pop. We've got stuff to do.
Go.
Yes.
Bye.
We'll carry on. Thank you, Joshua.
Sorry, we're just getting messages that Josh needs to go and do something, so I thought I'd step in there while you two were bickering.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about. A few comments coming in as expected. My point on the forward line again. Miovski got the nod yesterday. He's been bitterly disappointing for me. I thought at the time, I know you said it as well, Jonny, I thought that was a good signing. He looks a shadow of the player he was at Aberdeen, and even then, I don't think that the style suits him. I know he's not getting much service, but it doesn't look like he's going to cut it. Oliver Antman, incidentally, I don't think is as good as Ross McCausland. And I think, like you, I'd be looking to offload him in January. Bayrami was the one creative spark. I would have kept him on the park and played him in the sort of number 10 role, I've got to say. Asgard, get rid in January. He looks very much the League One player that I think he is at this point in time. I don't think he's cut out to play for Rangers. You're looking at others. Max Aarons, I don't get it. Playing on the... no, I don't get it as well. I know he's playing on the left-hand side. There was a period, and I think it happened on Thursday as well, where Danny Rule switched fullbacks. I can get why you would switch wingers, but I don't understand the reasoning behind switching your fullback, sticking Tav on the left and Aarons on the right-hand side, but I don't think that's going to work. either on errands, and I would like to see Rangers bringing in an experienced left back in January.
That's an absolute must. I wonder if they're going to play Dujon Sterling at left back, Derek. It's the same issue. You've got a right footer on the left, but Sterling's quite ambidextrous, isn't he? He's a guy that's capable of using either foot. He's not a natural lefty, but I think he's more than good enough to play there. I think he's going to be a big addition, actually, if you can keep him fit. I basically think that I'm putting him in about 3 different positions as first choice at the moment.
Can you clone him?
So, Dujon Sterling will certainly add a bit more grit, determination, and nastiness in the middle. I don't think he's a nasty player by any means, but he can certainly do the dirty work.
Yeah.
And that might allow Raskin some of the freedom to kind of maybe do what he wants to do, which is get around the pitch a little bit more. You mentioned Miovski. I've got to hold my hands up on this one, Derek. I still defend Miovski as someone I think would be a good signing. I'll look at the chances that Rangers are creating and say, well, what do you want the guy to do? Miovski's a killer in the box. He's a guy, if you give him chances, he'll score. But how many shots has he had in the last few games? I mean, the guy has not been given any service. He's completely starved. He's never been and never will be the guy that just makes chances himself out of thin air.
Nah.
So I really feel for him. He's not a big bustling 6'4" centre forward that's going to be getting in battles with central defenders. That's Chermiti, or that's what Chermiti should be doing. Miovski's a guy that has got clever movement and is a very good finisher, runs in behind. I think it's really, really hard to judge him based on this team. And I would say, look, this is a guy that was very good at Aberdeen, and I think if you get the team performing right and performing to his strengths, then you should see an improvement. His hold-up play has been poor, though, and there's no doubt about that. Yeah. It's not been good, but
there's no forward line. It's just you're at a loss, given that the money that we touched on there that's been spent on this. I mean, it's crazy to think that they've regressed so badly. It really is.
The money has been wasted, and
yeah,
ultimately, this is the major thing, I think, for Andrew Kavanagh. He needs to have deep pockets, because you look at the crowds. So it's 50,000, I think they said yesterday, were at the game. Derek, you were in the stand.
Yeah. I mean, they count season ticket holders, of course, as well, but absolutely no chance it was anywhere near that.
I heard someone say that they thought maybe 38, 39-ish.
Yeah, probably that. Yeah.
I mean, this will start to burn when we talk about the finances and we talk about Rangers kind of what they can bring in. The net revenues, as it were. You're talking about Europa League games are, 33, 34, 35, 36,000, when previously the entire ground was sold out and you couldn't get a seat. So that's a major amount of money that's been left on the table. You look at, okay, they've sold the season tickets for these games, but when people don't turn up, that means they're not buying programs, they're not buying pies, they're not buying Coke at hugely inflated markup prices, which we understand. But that's the brass tacks of this, Derek. Is if people aren't turning up, the opportunity to build more revenue is lost, and you factor that into a 35 million pound spend total. Once you factor in the sales, how much is that value still there? I mean, Telo Asgard, you might be able to get your money back from him, because I think there was a bit of interest down south. You might get near it anyway. Chermiti, I mean, you're not getting anywhere near that money. That's a pipe dream.
Yeah.
You look at Ant-Man. You're going to get 4 million for Ant-Man or 3.5 million for Ant-Man based on his performances. I mean, no one in Holland, as we saw with Sam Lammers, the teams in Holland, they're not going to spend that kind of money to bring a player like that back.
No.
So I really think that a lot of this money has basically been lost. And then you factor in payoffs for Martin, payoffs for Thelwell, who was on a very good wage, payoff for the CEO, whose name escapes me, Patrick Stewart. How could I forget that?
Contract is up in January, I think, Patrick Stewart. So I don't think that'll be breaking the bank stuff. But I get what you're talking about there.
There's still payoffs to go out, and all that combined, you have to be looking at the thick end of 50 million quid. I mean, on the back of a fag packet, it's a lot of money that's not going to be on that net revenue line.
It's mad.
Or that's coming off that net revenue line.
Yeah.
So really, really challenging situation. Amazing given what backing has been given. And that's the one thing you've got to say about Andrew Kavanagh's leadership. He has backed people. He's just brought the wrong people in. He's backed the wrong horses. But wow, it's really, really cost them. It's really, really cost the club, because what an opportunity there was this season. You look at Celtic, really weak. Hearts, I'm surprised how the wheels have kind of gone off a little bit. They're still atop the league, but they've not had a good spell of form. Thought they were a little bit fortunate against Motherwell to draw that game.
Yep.
So it's an enormous opportunity that's been lost, and I think Rangers will look back in terms of history and say, "Wow, we spectacularly got that wrong."
Yeah.
And it's on Andrew Kavanagh now to learn fast,
Fix it. Yeah.
and show that he can fix it. But as I say, it's so important that the same mistakes aren't made. It's so important that we're not getting another smooth-talking sporting director from England who thinks the answer to the problems is buying better players from League One and the Championship.
Yeah.
And doesn't understand the game up here, and is unaware of the politics, and unaware of the plastic pitches, and unaware of how bad the weather affects the ability to play football. All those things. It needs to be someone who understands it and gets it and has experience of it. Because you can't afford to give a guy 6 months to start to get his head round what it is to be a Ranger. That's not going to work. And Derek, I feel like I'm turning into my dad or something like that, like an old guy, but like I've always been a modernist. Like I've always preached like Rangers need to come into the 21st century. You need to modernise. Need to get more, pay more out to get guys who can deal with data, who can do the analysis, the video analysis, the scouting and all that sort of stuff, and use AI for injury prevention. I've always talked about these things, and now I feel like I'm talking like a 65-year-old in the pub, who grew up in the 70s and kind of wanting that football back. It's not, but it's just Rangers have lost their core identity so much. So much of that has been lost. It's gone far too far the wrong way.
Yep.
And it's just so obvious that that's what is needed to bring it back. The demands of the supporters are that they bleed for the shirt. And you're not going to get that with a bunch of guys who are coming in whose reason for being at the club is to do 2 years and then move to the Premier League. You need guys around them that actually understand it and can explain it and can lift them through the hard times. Oh.
Yeah. Robert's taking issue. It's Johnny, less of the ageism.
I'm not. Listen, he's just
having a laugh. Yeah.
I just mean in terms of like, the kind of every generation has a different take on football, and nobody's right and nobody's wrong. It's just that I think when you grow up, what you grew up with very much shapes your perception of what the game is and how it should be played and what you like. Certainly has for me. Yeah. And so I think you see different generations. Look, Josh's generation are much more around, we need to modernise, tactical innovation, tactical detail. It's every single one is different. So I'm absolutely not trying to make
he was having a laugh at Robert.
I'm making a generalisation.
Yeah. Lots of points. I wanted to flash a few up. Full Victim says that we've not got big enough personalities, no Mavericks that are going to get on the ball and take some big risks and get fans excited. I mean, you talk about the young generation. There's no one there that they go, I'll stick a poster of him up on my wall. If you think back in recent times, kids idolised Alfredo Morelos. You had Ryan Kent there at points as well. Guys that really got you off your seat. There's very limited or no players there that you go, oh, that is the poster boy of this Rangers team. Nico Raskin perhaps, but he's been well off the boil. But there's no one there. If I was, say, 9, 10, 11, I'm going, oh, I want to be like him when I'm older. Which is really galling, unfortunately. There's a point as well coming in from, well, thank you for the donation from David McFarlane. That's very kind of you, David. He says, do you guys know if Rangers have a sell-on clause for Egan? Man, he was outstanding again last night. Makes you sick, to be honest. love this show. Well, thank you for your kind words. He is tearing it up in at Liga, and it would not surprise me if they were at a long queue of clubs looking to prize him away next month, because he's going right to the top, Johnny, for me, and I very much hope Rangers have a sell on, because he is going to go for big money.
And I don't think they do.
Well,
it's something that we'd need to get checked out, but if memory serves me right, I think there was a clause in his contract to go for a certain amount. So we can get that checked out, but if memory serves, I think that might be one that you wouldn't hang your hat on.
The fans are going to go nuts at that when he does leave. Incidentally, I can see him going to... He can choose whatever club he wants to play at. For me, I think he's a real generational talent, and I just wish we'd seen him more in a Rangers jersey. You compare him now, I mean, just the way he controlled the ball last night for Lille, you just do not see that at Rangers. So, thank you for your donation, David. Very much.
Just before we go, Joshua was rushing off because he had a story to break. I didn't know what it was, and it's just kind of come out now, which is that the first kind of domino in the Thelwell backroom staff has fallen. It's been announced, it's Joshua's revealed that Jonathan Hunter-Barrett will no longer become the Rangers Academy director. He was due to join the club in January, reuniting with Kevin Thelwell, but the move is off following a mutual agreement. Now, I did sort of talk about this the other day when I said that I wouldn't be surprised if people who had agreed to come in to work with Kevin Thelwell because they liked Kevin Thelwell and Kevin Thelwell wanted them to be there might change their mind. And obviously this is the first one, but it looks like both Rangers and Hunter-Barrett are quite happy just to say this is not going to go ahead.
Well,
so, an interesting one, but maybe the first sign that the kind of Thelwell architecture is being dismantled.
I do wonder then, given the guys that are there at the club, i.e. his son, Dan Puddy, of course, is there at the moment. Nathan Fisher, of course, as well. I do wonder in the coming days and weeks if we may see some other departures there. It would not surprise me one bit. But interesting news that. So Rangers looking for a new academy director again. But not overly surprising that, I've got to say. And interesting stuff. There you go, folks. A bit of breaking news on the show. There's a point as well, Dan.
I'm going to shoot off, unfortunately. I'm sorry, mate. I've got a meeting now.
Right, okay. Well, we'll wrap up there for now. It has been a bumper old show, but thank you to Johnny, and thank you to you all for tuning in as ever. We will chat again. Those of you that Rangers Review Extra members will run our Q&A show at 1 p.m. this afternoon. So, stay tuned for that. If I don't speak to you, enjoy your Monday, and we'll chat again soon. Bye for now.